Good evening, YouTube. This is Andra again with Pi. Tonight's discussion will be talking about dating. Um, a lot of things I want to discuss, I've written down. So I'm just going to be reading off my computer just because I can't remember everything that I've written verbatim. Um, a lot of this, well, most of this, well, all of it will be coming from a female's perspective because I'm going off of the experiences that I've had. Um, so yeah. So dating or first talking to someone, some things that you should be asking them, um, I believe should be asked at the very beginning, just so you can get an idea whether the person will be worth your time or not. Um, And sometimes you can pretty much tell if a guy's going to waste your time just within the first few minutes. And when you get really experienced, you can tell just by the way they walk. Yep. So it doesn't really take months or anything like that. So I'm just going to roll over a few questions that you may want to think about going over with him if you're not already asking him these questions. Um, and they are super simple, but they will definitely save you a lot of frustration and emotional roller coasters down the line. Um, yeah, because it's always great to ask questions because not everybody wears their true self on the outside, right? Okay, so question number one, and I am in my bed, so I'm just going over some things with you guys before I go to bed. All right, so um, question number one, what kind of a relationship are you looking for? All right. If he responds with something similar to just wanting to chill or have a friend, leave him alone. Okay. A lot of my answers to my own questions will be leave him alone. All right. Just simple as that. Leave him alone. Um, because you already know that chill and friends is nothing more than just another code for sex, right? So basically, he's telling you that he plans to put nothing more into your time together but just sex. So if you're okay with that, then, and I hope you're not okay with that, but if you're one of those who, you know, don't mind the friends with benefits, then you're gonna have to be okay with just receiving nothing more from him than just that. You know, so if you're gonna claim to be okay with that, then you're gonna have to be okay with making sure that you don't catch feelings, basically, if that makes sense. Um, and also make sure that when you're speaking or when you're engaged in a conversation with a guy, that you make sure you're really listening to what he's saying. Um, because a lot of times guys will express their true self in just answering a simple question to you. Um, and then sometimes it may not be what we want to hear, so we just kind of not hear it or don't really pay attention to um, what he's saying or what he just told you. Um, so if he says that he just wants to chill or have a friend, then it's pretty much, or whatever he tells you, then, especially if it's something that you don't want to hear, then it will at that time be up to you to decide whether you want to accept what he said or not. You know, and never think when it comes to guys that, oh, I'll change him, or that may be how he feels now, but I'm pretty sure I'll be the one that makes him change down the road. Um, no, when it comes to most guys, pretty much what you see is what you get. Um, so that's when you just pretty much have to ask yourself, what do I want for myself? Do I want to further with him what he told me, or do I want to keep looking? Right? So just keep that in mind, you know, what kind of relationship are you looking for? And then with all that being said, You need to also be honest with yourself as well. What kind of relationship are you looking for as well? Okay, so second question, what's your belief system? Now, a lot of people don't really, some people don't really care about the belief system when it comes to dating people. Um, in my own opinion, I would prefer someone who has the same belief system as I do. I just believe that makes things easier, like conversations, because even with your close friends, you can have a best friend, but you guys can fall out over a 5 minute conversation over your religious beliefs, so I think that's really important, especially if you guys decide to have children. You're gonna have to decide, well, which way do I want to teach my child? I just think having the same beliefs kind of makes things easier. Even things that you probably wouldn't think about, like holidays, where you guys be celebrating holidays, where you guys be celebrating birthdays, just like little simple stuff that you probably take for granted. Um, or think that it really wouldn't be a big deal, or that you look forward to sharing with your partner, but can become a big deal if you two aren't on the same page. Um, so that's another question you can think about asking him. What's his belief system? Do you guys believe in the same thing? Um, question 3. Are you ready for a serious relationship? Okay. Um, if he hesitates before he answers this question, then he's probably not ready for a serious relationship. Or probably hasn't really thought about it. You know, if you have to think about something, then that means you haven't really thought about it, thought about carrying something out that far. Um, so that could be another thing, because that could be a headache dealing with somebody who's not really looking to settle down or be in a serious relationship when you are, you know. Question 4, what do you do for a living? What are you doing with yourself? Um, if his answer is something similar to saying he's unemployed, or he has no idea at the moment, or um, he tries to give you some deep, long response, leave him alone. I mean, that's a simple question that doesn't really require some deep, long response. And especially if he's saying he's unemployed. Well, nowadays I can't say that just because he says he's unemployed that makes him a bad guy, because a lot of days, nowadays, a lot of people are unemployed. That doesn't mean that they're not looking. That doesn't mean anything bad about them, but you have to be honest with what you're looking for. Um, that's that question. You may want to dig in a little deeper to see, what are you doing with yourself? You know, that may be something that you want to throw in there afterwards, after asking, what do you do for a living? And if their question is unemployed, then you can ask, well, what are you doing with yourself? Meaning, like, well, are you, trying to find something, or, you know, what's his situation, you know, and how is he handling that, basically. Um, the next question would be, or the next question could be, do you have any children? Um, Now, a lot of people have children. We all understand that. But depending on his answer, you may have to also ask him, or may want to, well, depending on his answer, you may have to also ask him, how many women does he have children with, if he has a lot of women. Um, Now, if this dude says 3 or more, or and from multiple women, no, leave him alone. Um, yeah, no, no. I'll try to find a decent way of saying this. You don't want to be woman number whatever it is, you know. And I have to be honest with myself. When I'm in a relationship, I like to be treated, sometimes. And if his finances are caught up handling multiple children from multiple different women, that's kind of much out the window as far as wanting to be treated, or things like that. So you got to think about that as well. Like, would you be able to handle that? You know, um, so that's a self evaluation, you know, for yourself. Um, Another question you can ask them, which is for me the last question I'm going to throw out there for you guys to think about asking, um, when you're beginning to talk to someone, or you think that this is someone that you want to talk to. Do you have a criminal background? Um, I think if you ask this question, it'll kind of give you an idea of the financial support he will be able to bring to the household, and give you a idea of the financial load and stress that you're going to have to carry yourself. Um, because, and I'm just gonna read this verbatim, but if he does become unemployed and he has a criminal background, then you have to consider that it may be hard for him to find employment again. If it is, then you want to look at, well, is he out there still trying to find things to do with himself, even though he can't get employed, or is he at home on the PlayStation? Like, what is he doing with himself? That's one of the first questions that I was asking. That just kind of gives you an idea of his mindset, or where his mind is, you know. And as you get older, especially if you're older and you're an independent woman, you don't want a little boy. You want a man who's going to be, out there handling his business, trying to make things happen, get things done, making something of himself, not using excuses as far as him not doing anything, you know. Um, yeah, now I'm just speaking from when you're just first meeting someone, because we all know, you can get with someone who something happens to them down the road while you guys are already dating. Um, so that's a totally different story. But I'm just talking about when you're actually meeting this person. Um, and also, this is where you have to be honest with yourself again. Is that something that I want to deal with? Would that be something that I mind? Always having to be the one that the household finances is dependent upon. Is that a stress that I wouldn't mind carrying, for however long you guys are going to be together. Um, yeah, definitely you want to ask yourself that before you get into a relationship with someone, because you definitely don't want to be someone else's scar. You don't want to be someone else's scar. When I say you don't want to be someone else's scar, I mean you don't want to get into a relationship and you knew, well, you didn't do your self-evaluation before, you weren't honest with yourself, so now you've gotten into a relationship with someone, and the things that you have to deal with are something that you really don't like, or you really can't handle, for lack of a better word. So now you're taking it out on that person. You definitely don't want to get into put yourself and that individual um, into a situation where it's not a good situation, you know. Um, so don't waste his time, and don't put yourself in a situation that is not something that you want. you know. Um, Yeah. Um, but those are just some things that, you may want to think about um, asking, or kind of bringing up in a conversation when you're first finding yourself interested in someone. Um, yeah. Now, if he seems to pass those three questions with flying colors, um, well, not those three questions, but if he passes those questions with great answers, he's doing stuff with himself, whatever the case is, then you're going to have to also move into watching out for small signs, like where his mind is. You can do that by paying attention to the music that he listens to. You can do that by paying attention to the company that he keeps, um, what things capture his interest, you know. Or sometimes you just may want to spark up a conversation on a topic to see what his viewpoints are on it, to see where his mind is. Um, yeah. Um, that is pretty much it. And I'll just run through those again. The first question was, what kind of relationship are you looking for? Um, and in all these, I would first suggest that you definitely self-evaluate yourself first to make sure that you know what you're looking for. Because there's no need in asking someone these questions and you don't even know what you're looking for. And then two, there's no need in getting into a relationship with someone and you mess them up. You definitely don't want to turn a good man into a bitter man. So definitely self-evaluate yourself first, please. So again, question number one was, what kind of relationship are you looking for? Two, what's your belief system? Three, are you ready for a serious relationship? Um, Four, what do you do for a living? Or what are you doing with yourself? Do you have any children? And again, depending on what his answer is to that, you know, if he has a few kids, then, well, how many women do you have children with? You know, um, six, do you have a criminal background? Um, Now, just keep in mind that some of these questions you're going to have to get kind of creative and not just bluntly come out and say, do you have a criminal background? Because that's going to come off kind of odd of somebody asking. So you have to find some kind of your own little creative way to kind of throw those questions in there. But definitely remember that when you're talking to a guy, he gives you an answer, because usually they don't mind answering questions. You just have to be willing to ask them. Make sure that you're listening when they give you an answer, and then be willing to accept the answer that they give you, because usually they will give you the truthful answer within a few seconds of answering that question, for lack of a better way of saying that. So yeah, definitely just know what you're looking for and be acceptable of that answer. Definitely be acceptable of that answer. And decide, well, is this something that I want to deal with? Is this somebody that I want to deal with, or do I just want to keep looking? But that is it. Again, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask me. If you think I left something out, then just run it by me, or whatever the case, or however you want to do that. And that is it. I hope you guys have a good night. Good night.